Welcome, everyone, to our second Hispanic Heritage Month virtual event for Latino Leadership Network. We had a wonderful first event last week with Juan and Jenny and Cecilia. So, thank you all who were able to participate last week. And thank you for coming this week to this very exciting and personal, passionate presentation. A lot of P's there. So, we are the Latino Leadership Network, and we work through the power of connection. We hope to invest, inspire, and serve our fellow members of state employment, but also the general state. Everyone is welcome here, allies and people who are not state employed. So today's meeting is being recorded. You have probably already heard that request for your agreement to be recorded. So make sure that your microphone is off and your video is off, especially if you don't want to be recorded today. And we will be accepting questions in the chat the entire event, and then at the end we'll share them with Armenia to answer for you. So you're welcome to comment and chat have it a live space. But while you're doing so, please keep it professional and remember our community agreements. If you've been to our general membership meetings, these are familiar. We ask that you stay engaged, speak your truth, and try not to fix or correct other people's truths. It's okay to be uncomfortable and to take risks. We hope to provide a safe space for that and encourage everyone here to listen for understanding, expect and accept non-closure. So this is a personal family story, and so you might relate to it and you might not in different ways, and that's the beauty of our vast, diverse diaspora here. So here's our little about page. The Latino Leadership Network uses that more traditional word, but we welcome and include in that people who identify or choose to identify as Hispanic. Oh my gosh, every time I've gone down to admit people, I've shown you my little banner there. I'll let someone else work on that then. Sorry. Chicano, Boricua, Indigenous, Afro-Latino, Afro-Latina, Latinx, Latine, however you identify, we welcome you here. So here's our little plugs for the rest of our events this month. So 2 days from now, on Saturday of this weekend, you are welcome to come to this free event, free parking, free food for everyone. So use the QR code you see on the screen here, or go to the Gov Delivery newsletter that we send out to everyone. We're going to have a beautiful, expansive list of entertainment and guest speakers, including a professor who does great work for our community. So it'll be a great opportunity to celebrate us and our community in Washington. So please join us for that in-person event. Oh, I meant to take this slide out because we are here for this event, so I'm just going to skip right over that. Next week on Thursday, October the 3rd, we welcome you to come again for tips and tricks to landing your next role, understanding the state recruiting process. LLN's wonderful Steve Kammerer is gonna, I don't know if I said his name right, Kammerer. It's hard. I'm bad at those. When I was a kid, I couldn't say girl. I would say gwirl, which now is a thing we say anyway. So it works out. Trendsetter. Anyway, Jose Dominguez is going to be joining him for that presentation. And so we are really excited that Steve and Jose have worked so hard to build this, to demystify the recruitment process from both an interview and interviewee perspective. So come with lots of questions. It's going to be interactive and very informative. And then for this coming general membership meeting, which is not on Thursday, it is on Tuesdays from 3 to 5, we are going to have the wonderful guest speaker from New York City, I think it's Natalie. I don't believe it's Natalia. I believe it's Natalie Asalgado. So I will correct that for next week's um, slides. It's my bad on that, on not catching that before. So she will be presenting Understanding Your Loved One's Brain, Neurodivergence in the Immigrant Family. Natalie is a licensed practitioner of mental health care, and so we are so grateful that we will be able to have her time to discuss this important topic for our community and every community. And then our final event is going to, last but not least, Estefania Martinez Limo will be presenting a very exciting discussion about Spanglish in government. And she'll be bridging cultures and enhancing, or discussing how Spanglish can bridge cultures and enhance communication in government work. And so that's going to be a very beautiful and exciting discussion as well. So without further ado, we are now going to be discussing my musical Tejano Familia by Herminia Esqueda, our wonderful co-lead of LLN as of a little while ago. So it's really cool that she's been working on this presentation almost a year, I would say, maybe longer, probably longer, since it took a lot of research and in Herminia's personal life to discover this wonderful, somewhat buried history, and we are so grateful that she is here to present it to us today. So I'll let you take over now, Herminia.
Thank you. I don't know what view I put it on. Can you see my face and the screen?
Oh, I forgot to say hi. My name is Sedona. I have brown short hair. I am the planner of LLN virtual events. I have glasses and a cute little barrette in my hair that I got at the thrift store in Port Angeles. So sorry I did not do that beforehand, and I'm sorry for interrupting you. Thank you, Herminia. We do see you, and we see your screen, and we hear you.
Gracias. Buenos días, mi gente. Thank you for being with us today. And yes, today I am sharing a personal story, but also education. Part of Hispanic Heritage Month is not only to share music and culture and the beauty of our community, but it's also to educate about our community as well. So today I'm going to share some education and some personal story as well. Let me get. So I'm going to talk about just who is a Tejano. The history of the accordion. I know that may sound boring to you, but hopefully it won't be. The little bit of the background around the Texas Mexican Conjunto, and personal stories about my abuelo. His name is Jesus, El Gallito, Casiano, and my heritage. So a little bit about terminology. We are not a monolith. Latinos, Hispanics, our community covers more than 22 countries. So this is a specific story. My story is a Tejana and a Chicana. So some of that terminology, if you're not familiar with it, Hispanic, it wasn't a word created by our community, for one thing. It was created by government, and it's regarding the ethnicity from Spanish-speaking countries, which is not the as Latino, Latina, Latine, and Latinx, which is ethnicity from specifically Latin American and Caribbean countries. But you'll also see that we, for the majority, don't identify ourselves as not really Latino and Hispanic unless you're talking about us as a community. Usually we identify ourselves specifically with that nationality, ethnicity that we are connected with as a Mexicana, Chicana, Tejana. That's how I identify. And this is my personal story, which I hope that you can connect to because we're all connected. But understand that when we describe ourselves as, I just got back from Costa Rica and they call themselves ticos and ticas. So that is how we connect, is by our own individual identity and identifier. So don't feel bad about using Hispanic and Latinx. Obviously, we're calling it Hispanic Heritage Month, but we've struggled with that identity as well because those are names that were given to us. And so I identify as Chicana, Mexican American, Tejana, and I'm going to talk specifically about our Tejano or my roots in Tejano music, which is of European and Mexican influences in Texas specifically, because we have a specific culture in Texas of Tejano music. So I just wanted, because of that, to also just talk a little bit about what is a Chicano and a Tejano. What, are they the same or are they different? So last year, a chance to go to Cheech Marin's. Some of you may know him from Cheech and Chong, but he's actually one of the largest collector of Chicano art in the world. And his definition of Chicano is the word Chicano was originally a derisive term from Mexicans to other Mexicans living in the United States. The concept was that those Mexicans living in the US were no longer truly Mexicanos because they had given up their country by living in Houston or LA or any other part of the country. And they were now something else and something less to some, a little satellite Mexicans of living in a foreign country. They were something small. They were chicos and they were Chicanos. Also, many other ideas of where the term Chicano came from. Tejano is the term derived from the Spanish adjective tejano or tejana, which denotes a Texan of Mexican descent. Thus, a Mexican Texan or a Texas Mexican. And it encompasses cultural manifestations and language and literature and art, music and cuisine. And you'll hear the adjective Tex-Mex to describe some of those things, but that is still really not the same thing as saying Tejano. And because that term has been used as early as the 1800s. Miguel Ramos, an author, referred to the citizens of Texas as Tejanos in correspondence, some correspondence that I found online. So I created this timeline. It's in a couple of places in my presentation because I'm going to hope that I have enough time at the end to play some music. But wanted to give you an introduction of how what I'm going to talk about today is part of this Tejano music, how it's evolved. And I'm only going to talk about really the beginning, but I wanted to highlight just what it's led to and how the music itself has evolved. I'm going to focus on the very beginning, the 1930s, 1940s, rancheras, boleros, polka. But wanted just to bring have you visually see the timeline of how who I loved and I learned. You know, when we do presentations, we learn ourselves. And I learned about the Tejano women, Tejanas doing music. So many Tejanas. This Lydia Mendoza, Carmen and Laura, the Mendoza sisters, Eva Garza, Chelo Silva, all Mexican women singing Tejano music and doing Tejano music. And so as the music has evolved, you may be familiar with Selena and maybe Bobby Pulido or the Cumbia Kings. But really all of that music started at the humble beginnings of the accordion. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. So the accordion, many of you may be familiar with a German piano accordion. Well, in the 1800s, early 1900s, as we received German immigration, remember last year I talked about immigration, so that's a different presentation. But as we were receiving German settlers and immigrants, and they started settling, owning land, becoming the farmer, and hiring Mexican farm workers, um, the Mexicans noticed this accordion instrument. It was a piano accordion. And they couldn't afford it. The piano accordion was actually too expensive. And they would listen to the music, not really engage with the Germans, but listen to the music and were curious and started and found that there was a cheaper accordion called, well, that was the button accordion. And that is actually the type of accordion that we use in Mexican music. And there is a distinct sound difference between the piano accordion and the button accordion. The accordion has this staccato sound. If you, I'm going to play some music a little later, but as you listen to the music, it'll has like that ta 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 sound, as opposed to the waltz or the polkas that you listen to from the Germans. But you can definitely hear the influence of that of the German style polka to the Mexican style polka, because that's how we started playing polkas, because that's what we heard from the Germans is them playing polkas also. I have, and we'll share the PowerPoint. So many links in my presentation that if you wanted to hear more, there's these two wonderful, there's an NPR interview, um, and that it's like 3 minutes and just talks about the history of the German accordion to the button accordion. And also this Accordion Dreams documentary that follows just this new generation of how they're embracing this music as well. And I also just too much to do in an hour, but if you go to TikTok and do a search for accordion music or Tejano music, you will see this new generation of young people picking up the accordion, and they're amazing. So I am going to show a clip. I hope that it works because I want to highlight also that when we talk about Tejano music, it's not Mexican music. When you think of the country of Mexico and coming from Mexico, this really is true Americana, US American music. And I'm going to hopefully play this video and see. And be patient with me because I'm going to forward it to the 5-minute mark.
Days, what were the main types of accordions?
Could you hear that? I just need a thumbs up or something in the chat.
Yes, we hear it.
Wonderful. Okay, I'm going to put it on the 5:30 mark. This is Flaco Jimenez, who is one of the more famous accordion players. And I just love, oh, I'll let you hear it and then we'll talk about it.
A ver, corazón, vidita mía, y déjame entrar. Sabes que te quiero y que no te puedo olvidar. Tú eres mi cariño, yo te quiero así hasta el fin. Open up your heart and let my love come in. Oh, darling, if you love me just like the way I do, please don't try to scare me and say you love me too. Now that you know, darling, that I've told you everything, open up your heart and let my love come in. Abre el corazón, vidita mía, y déjame entrar. Sabes que te quiero y que no te puedo olvidar. Tú eres mi cariño, yo te quiero así hasta el fin. Open up your heart and let my love come in.
I love that. So hopefully some of you, maybe it brought back some nostalgic memories if you're Tejanos or if you grew up listening to this music. What I love about this is that it's bilingual. We sing in Spanish and English together because we are, I say this every year, the border crossed us. We didn't cross the border. We've always been here. This our land has always been Spanish and English and Spanglish especially. And this is who we are. So when we think about the origins of Tejano music, it originated in Texas. It originated in the US. Yes, it's part of Mexican music. And yes, it has grown and blown up as a worldwide kind of genre, but it's started here, started in Texas with farm workers that picked up this instrument and wanted to carry this joy and bring joy. This was really a farm worker music, música del campesino. And so, and that's why I wanted to play. There's like 7 videos on YouTube on this documentary. This was like one of 7, and this was specifically the clip I wanted to just show that we have a bias sometimes when we think about American music. This is as American as it comes, created here in the U.S. in the land of Texas. But how did it start? It started as Texas, and we call them conjuntos. That's when 2 or 3 people get together and play together. And part of that conjunto was the accordion, as you see in this picture, and the bajo sexto. I used to think that was like a saxophone or something, but it's a 12-string guitar and a drum. That 3 instruments is how it started. And it was working class culture, took its roots on American soil. It's symbolic. And I grew up with it. Well, I'm going to get ahead of myself a little bit, but my dad played the accordion. We did not want to play the accordion as 4 daughters because we just didn't think much of it. And now I regret it because now we're really embracing our culture and embracing our music. And this next generation is hungry to learn more about our instruments and our music. And I love that. And the father of Tex-Mex conjunto music is considered to be Narciso El Huracán del Valle Martínez and Santiago Almeida. And now this is where there's a connection to Washington State here, a huge connection to Washington State. So when I got married and moved to Sunnyside, Washington, my neighbors were the Guzmanes and the Almeidas. Little did I know the connection those 2 families would have or had with my dad's side of the family, the Casiano side of the family, the musical side of the family. So after I married my husband and we met Santiago Almeida, I go to his living room, this Santiago Almeida you see in the picture, and he brings out a book and he says, "I know your grandfather." I said, "What do you mean you know my grandfather?" He says, "Let me show you this book." And here's this book. He opens it up and there's the name of my grandfather, Jesus El Gallito Casiano. And he goes, "That's what we called him. Everybody knew him as El Gallito." So my grandfather played the accordion, and he actually was playing even before Narciso Martinez, who became more famous. And there's many articles, and I'll share those in a bit as well. But had it not been for Santiago, I really would not have known the impact. I knew my grandfather played the accordion. I knew my dad played the accordion. They'd say that my grandfather, was pretty famous, or they knew him around San Antonio. But I didn't really realize the impact. Wouldn't have ever probably until Santiago Almeida shared that book with me. And then come to find out that the neighbors next door as well were all musicians, the Guzmanes, Joel Guzman. And in this little town of Sunnyside, I mean, what are the chances of that happening? But it's also because I think it was a campesino music. These were not people that made a career from playing music and being musicians and making these records, which all of them did. They actually did this on the side when they did seasonal farm work. They were from Texas. They'd come up to Idaho and Washington to do farm work. Then they'd go back and they needed some other source of income. Plus, it provided joy. And we're just, as Latinos, we're into our music, and music brings us joy. And honestly, my grandmother used to send my dad with my grandfather to go play at the bailes because they did dances. to take care of the accordion. She used to call it the money maker. Whatever happens, if your grandfather starts drinking or carousing or whatever he does, you protect the accordion at all costs, because she literally called it the money maker instrument. So I just love the connection between Sunnyside and my family, even though my family's from Texas. What was the likelihood that I would move next door to these people that also were influenced by my grandfather? So not only did Santiago Almeida introduce me to just my grandfather's music and the impact. As the internet started, I would start searching and didn't really find much about my grandfather. I was like, I want to find this book that he showed me. I want to find his music. And as the internet started getting more robust and bigger, I kept searching and searching. Well, a couple of years ago, because as Sedona mentioned, I've had this on my mind for a couple of years. I started and it was like something just cracked open. All of a sudden, there is information and recordings, my grandfather's recordings from the 30s online at UC Berkeley, at the Smithsonian Institute, at the Texas Music Academy, and owe it all to this man on this video, which I'm going to show you. And I'm just going to let the clip play for itself. He is the person who gathered all of this music and cleaned it, digitized it, and made it available so that we all have it for us. So this one I'm going to try to forward, so be patient with me. I'm going to forward it to the 26-minute mark. So let's see.
This is miraculous. This is a guy who will follow from sperm to worm, or from womb to tomb. The guy is capable of handling the whole process.
Can't even get their damn toilet paper. God damn. I know nobody knows how to cook anymore. I wash them with just detergent like I would wash dishes, but you have to be a little bit more careful. Yeah. And then I shake off most of the water and put them in a rack. I must have washed thousands, over the years, yeah, people think I'm nuts. Yeah, it is sort of an obsession, I'm sure. Most people would say, God, this guy's totally off his walker, to not only collect them, but then organize them this way, and oh well. But I enjoy it. That's what gives me great pleasure. And this stuff never talks back, talks good back to you. They sound like they were recorded yesterday. Better. It's kind of nice to find those in brand new condition. Obviously in South Texas, nobody was interested in this thing.
Le falta un clavo a mi cruz, va morir crucificado.
During my trips, actually, if I couldn't find any interesting musicians, because it was difficult in those days to find out where and who was around even, I would look for old records. And so if I couldn't hunt one, I'd hunt the other, Waiting for the goodies. Oh, these are the Orfeos. Yeah. These are the cream of the crop. Yeah. They are like looking for a needle in a haystack.
Yeah,
that's
they're
right.
very rare records. Yeah.
Yeah, Billy Roy has really explored the history of that label.
I remember him since 1991, Chris. Me and him got something in common. hunt for records, hunt for the 78s, LPs and 45s, old pictures. Oh, this is me.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is a copy when I was
you?
when I was a kid. Yeah.
Billy Roy Morales.
Yeah.
Okay, we gotta get closer to that.
And this one,
It's probably totally worn.
no, not a lot, but oh yes, it's a
Oh, yes.
yeah. I found them in a jukebox.
How they could even hear anything off of a record like this. The surface is totally worn off. All you're gonna get is
Oh yes,
with the little dim sounds in the background.
that's right.
And you see here in this country where the people were richer, if a jukebox played them something like 25 times, they would replace it. In Mexico, once they put it on there, they wore it until there's nothing left in those grooves.
Some of them have remedy, but the ones that are very worn out, there's no remedy.
I know. Whoa, hold it! Hold it, stop!
Apparently there's 60,000 45s.
Of the 78s, I would say only about 1,500 or 2,000. My last madness, I don't just collect these things like all these 78. I do love to liberate this stuff. That is to make it available to people.
I went to Sears Roebuck in Lafayette. Must have been 1970.
So there's a lot more of that if you want to go to YouTube and watch it. But had to just honor this man's labor of love. Yes, Michaela, as you mentioned. And yes, a shout out to Herminia Mendez, who put this music on the airwaves. I talked about her last year, Melissa. She was the first, not only Latina Mexican radio station owner, also owned La Tropicana. She was a DJ. She was way ahead of her time, DJ on KREW for Spanish music.
70.
So how is my grandfather connected to all of this? Well, as I mentioned, his records were saved, and I was able to find his records. And not only did Chris save the records and digitize the records, he took pictures of every individual 45. So not only can I hear the music, I can see the label, I can see my grandfather's name on the record. Yes, and now we're in 32-minute documentary, yes. So these are pictures, not of all of them, of some of my grandfather's records. And you can see some of them have his name and some of them just say El Gallito. So I love the name. Again, we're Spanglish, right? Look at the first record, Los Bootleggers. I just get a kick out of that. Campanitas de Plata was one of his more famous ones. Mi Morena, Los Paranderos, El Rancho Polka. So some of them say Jesus Casiano, and some of them say El Gallito, and then with some of them he accompanied other musicians like the Dorados. So I'm actually gonna play some of my. I'm not very much. Honestly, I think they kind of all sound the same because they're all polkas. They don't have any vocals to them. In the 30s, this is how we started. We started with just instrumental music. And so see if you can pick up and see how you hear the difference between a German polka and now I hope this plays because it's on a different screen and I'm not sure if it'll share audio from this screen as well. I may have to stop sharing and share again. So please give me a thumbs up or let me know. I'm going to hit play now. Oh.
B-224.
I think we did start to hear it. So I think
Okay.
you're good.
Okay, so let me.
Yes.
Vocalion. Vocalion 887.
This will be the last one I'll play.
Victor 75.
This is Campanitas de Plata. I can see why that one was probably more famous. It has a little jump to it, like you could jump around polka with it. So I'm just really proud of the work of Chris Strachwitz and just grateful for his work, and Santiago Almeida for just kind of opening the door to my research of my grandfather's music, and that every single one of these is on YouTube. And also I first saw him honored through the Texas Academy of Music, but then to also then see it at UC Berkeley and part of the Smithsonian folklore music is just, it really just gets me emotional just thinking about it, that his music will live forever. And I tracked down and bought on what's Apple his actual recordings. Some of the music was, and you'll see a lot of these, and even on that timeline, it's Arhoolie Records was the one who did most of the music, was the producer for most of these musics. And so they then later created these albums also because it was collected. And my grandfather's name is actually on the cover of this one, Accordion Pioneers from 1929 to 1939. Jesus Casiano. Yes, Sidonia, you expect vocals, right? And they just danced to the music when we started. What do you need vocals for? You just need the music to dance. And here's another one, San Antonio Conjuntos, because if I didn't mention it, this music, it grew up in San Antonio. To this day, they have accordion festivals in San Antonio. They have Tejano music festivals in San Antonio. And my regret is I haven't been to one. So maybe eventually I will get over there for one of these festivals. And my other regret is that Leavenworth would have, and I don't know if they still do, these accordion festivals. And I always wanted to take my dad to one because I knew he would appreciate it, even if it wasn't Tejano music. And I never did. But here you see my grandfather's name on another album from the 50s, San Antonio Conjuntos, Jesus Casiano El Gallito, Viva San Marcos. There's also a lot of articles written about the history of Tejano music and the history of the accordion. And I did one, I think it was on the genealogy search that we did. I went in and it brought up this newspaper or this, I think it's probably a book. Maybe it's the book that Santiago showed me. And here's my grandfather's name at the bottom when they were talking about the musicians. Also found some other articles with more famous musicians talking about the history and who got them going and who were their influences, and found at least 3 articles, 3 different musicians that mentioned my grandfather as an influence, that, there was this guy, El Gallito, that would play, and he was always there, and he may not have been as famous, but he was the one that influenced a lot of the music and the conjunto and accordion scene in San Antonio. And this is, if you didn't figure it out, the picture of my grandfather on one of the records or the albums. And my grandfather is the one with the accordion. There you see the bajo sexto, but also a saxophone in this one. And so there was also orchestra music around this time in the 30s and 40s. So here is the timeline where I'd like to I'm just gonna, just play clips of the music from the different eras, starting with the Mendoza sisters, a little bit of Bernal. I think I picked Little Joe and La Familia. And then even a little, I think I'm going to end with Selena on this slide, just to hear how music evolves, but how it's still connected and the influence of one generation to the next. So let's see if you can hear. This one is Lydia Mendoza, women from the 30s playing Tejano music. And this one does have lyrics.
40-B matrix.
Sale loco de contento con su cargamento para la ciudad, ay, para la ciudad.
Can you turn it up at all?
Turn it up? Yeah, let's see. Okay, yeah. And this one doesn't have the accordion. These are just how the music has evolved itself. Some of the other ones do have accordion, but this first one doesn't.
Ay, de felicidad. Piensa remediar la situación del hogar que es toda su ilusión.
I care about what touches my
sorry.
skin.
Commercial. This is also women, Carmen and Laura.
Pero qué cobarde, cuando más enamorada me encontraba, sin piedad me abandonaste.
So that was Carmen and Laura, also from the 30 and 40 era lyrics, and still sing about the same things, being heartbroken and how he was a coward. This next one is a polka from Narciso Martinez. So now you're going to hear the accordion influence, and Narciso was really one of the first accordionists that became well known and was friends with my grandfather. And now we're going to move on to Narciso and Santiago Almeida from Sunnyside, Washington. Santiago's on the bajo sexto, and Narciso is on the accordion. And Santiago has already passed away. This next one is the Conjunto Bernal, who he just barely passed away. Paulino Bernal was actually a huge influence on my father. I'll talk about that a little bit later too with the final video that I'm going to show. But him and his brothers had the Conjunto Bernal, also a picture of him and Eloy. Both of them actually just passed away. Oh, that's the one I want to play. Well, I'll just talk about it now. So this one that I'm going to play from the Conjunto Bernal is actually, those of you who have evangelical background or Christian background, the very first Christian music that I ever listened to was the Conjunto Bernal. Because Paulino Bernal and Conjunto Bernal were playing in dances and were very famous in the Tejano music. Until he started his family and had all of those children, and he was born again. And so then that was actually my first introduction to Christian music, was he then started playing this same music, but with spiritual lyrics. So this was actually the song that you're going to hear is one of the very first songs that I heard. And we went to go listen to Paulino because we were living in Texas, and he was going to be at this church. We didn't go to this church, but somebody invited us. The only draw for us was that Paulino Bernal was going to be there, and that was a big deal. And so when Paulino Bernal then sang, and his family sang, it was beautiful. And he's on the accordion, like this family band. And then that was what our introduction to the Christian faith. And then my dad also started playing more faith based Tejano music. And so this is actually very nostalgic for me, this music that I'm going to play right now, because we bought their records, very first records that we had in the house that were, I even hate to call it Christian music because that's not what I associate with Christian music. I just think of it as family Tejano faith music. So this is what we would listen to in our house. Oh,
We
my
need to make a
commercial.
decision.
Sorry.
What does
Sorry.
the data say?
2 more seconds.
I'm not.
Why not? So we were Gloria Aleluya. Yes, we were. And so that was very nostalgic and influential in our family. Now here's the Conjunto Bernal, pre-born again.
La que hiciera ese lamento, como si llorando se rieran de mí. Es la vida pasada que siento, reprocharé el haber sido así.
Oh, I love somebody else. I don't have a chance to read the whole thing, but I saw that they're also familiar with Paulino Bernal. And then the next one, also a story behind it. So we go on to the 60s and 70s. La Mafia, Roberto Pulido, Little Jolie La Familia, Laura Canales, Los Tigres del Norte. Surely some of you are familiar with some of those names. Roberto Pulido, when I went to school in Alamo, Texas, was my music teacher. Again, they're not making a whole lot of money off of this. He taught music on the side at my elementary school. His son became even more famous than he did. So you'll see in the 80s and 90s, Bobby Pulido. That was Roberto Pulido's son. So this is Roberto Pulido's music. So now you see an introduction of more instruments, bigger like band and dance hall, different kind of, it's evolving and becoming just bigger. A synthesizer, you can kind of hear the synthesizer in there. And then also famous Los Tigres del Norte.
Te regalaba todo, todo lo que me pedías. Sin embargo me reclamas y te daba hasta mi vida. Pero tú, ¿qué me has dado?
Again, romantic music. Even when the accordion is soft, I think it just sounds more romantic to me. And so you can hear just the unique sound of the button accordion. And Little Joe, this one, I wonder if I can share. I don't want to dare. It is actually a video of Little Joe playing with Flaco Jimenez. Remember Flaco Jimenez from the very first video? They're playing together. Oh, I'm going to try. I don't know what this is going to do because I didn't practice this, but can you see that, Sedona? I just put a screen on top of a screen.
Yes.
Oh, you can. Okay. So this is a treat. So I'm going to show you or play. Oops. Where did it go? My playlist. Oh, it's over here. Okay. Little Joe with Flaco Jimenez. So Little Joe and La Familia, Joel Guzman, remember the Guzmanes from Sunnyside? Joel Guzman played with Little Joe and La Familia. So there's the Sunnyside connection with the Guzmanes and Little Joe. And now he's playing with Flaco Jimenez, who was the one at the very beginning.
Porque ayer tarde a mi prieta la vi
I'm going to end our history timeline with, even though this song does not have the accordion in it, I like it because, one, it's Selena, of course. But if you can hear the synthesizer in it, some people even thought that they did have an accordion in their band because their synthesizer very much has this button accordion sound to it. So I'm just going to play a clip. It's going to be La Carcacha. But I just think it sounds, so you can see the influence. If even though they don't have the accordion, and they actually played all Selena songs at the last accordion festival in Texas because that synthesizer has that sound to it, like the button accordion, and it just, you can see the influence even if there wasn't an accordion there.
Collaboration is key for team success. With ClickUp, you can easily manage your team's tasks and timelines.
So I won't play the rest, sorry. But could you hear it? Could you hear the synthesizer with that just accordion kind of feel and influence to it? Even the part when he did the synthesizer where he goes, "Beep," very similar to that very original Flaco Jimenez video where he went on the accordion, like kind of like on a guitar. So I just want to end it by just showing just the impact to my family and my dad. My dad did not become as famous as my grandfather, but the accordion was always around. You can see these pictures. This is me and my dad. And this is him with his, there was a big deal about that accordion. He spent a lot of money on it, did not make my mom very happy. He ordered it from Italy. It was a Gabernelli. That's his brother. They used to play together, my Tio Chon. And then here's my dad in his older years, as he's always gathered accordions, who then started teaching accordion classes because, again, there was a demand. When he didn't do that when I was younger, there wasn't much of a demand for it as there was in his later years, which is not too recent. So he just passed away a few years ago, with people really wanting to play the accordion. And here he is, my dad with his band. He'd go play the violas even at his age whenever they asked him. And here he is with my nieces. Just another little bit of trivia. This girl in the middle is Miss USA. Alma Cooper is my niece, and this is her mom, Oralia, with my dad in accordion classes and joining him on the saxophone. He did make us all play instruments, so I play the clarinet, my sister plays the saxophone, my other sister played the flute, the other sister played the drums, but none of us quite caught on to the connection to the accordion. And so I want to end it with, this is just a 30-second clip of my dad. Music that we grew up in the church was very influential. And so in this video, he is with my two brother-in-laws. All three of them have since passed away. And we would get together outside the house, on the patio, in the garage. And when he came to visit in Washington, this is by North 4th Street in Sunnyside, Washington. And I said, Dad, bring your accordion. My mother-in-law loves it. My brothers-in-laws love it. And both my brother-in-laws would sing in church. So this is just a 30-second clip of my dad playing the accordion and my brother-in-law singing. And I'm sure we'll find a way to share the presentation, but I have tons of links, all of the sources that I use, all of the YouTube videos that I've included, and much more where I just use information, the links to all of my grandfather's music, to different articles, to the article that Chuch Marin talks about Chicano music and Tejano music. And there is even a video on YouTube with Selena teaching Tejano music history. So I've included that in there as well. So thank you very much. I hope this was educational. I hope you found some nostalgia in it. Thank you for letting me share my family and our music and its influence with you.
Thank you, Herminia. It was a wonderful presentation. I believe last year for Noemi's presentation that had a lot of music links and we weren't able to include them all in the presentation. We had done a Gov delivery newsletter of the link package. So that would be an option to do this time around if you want.
Yeah, we'll find a way. And we'll put it in the newsletter where they're at.
Whatever we end up with will be in the newsletter. So yeah, keep an eye on that. Does anyone have any questions or comments they want to? We are still in record, so keep that in recording or not. But you are welcome to unmute if you would like to and say a comment or ask your question directly if you have any. I'm seeing lots of thank yous scrolling by.
And yes, Rosalie, I saw your comment too about your father. I'm sure he probably knows who my dad is and my grandfather, I'm sure. Los Brillantes, that name even sounds familiar. Thank you for sharing.
All right, well, if no one has any comments or questions, we might give you a minute or two early.
Oh, well, yes, I can share something real quick. I just got back from Costa Rica and I was able to be there for their celebration and wanted to share just a couple of observations that I made there since it is Hispanic Heritage Month. One, they had a 2.5-hour parade of all school children to celebrate independence. There was no military and no weapons in the parade. They are a country of peace that actually have no military. A couple of other observations I made. Well, Pura Vida, if you didn't know, is their country's motto. And they live by that. It's in enjoying life and peace of life. And I had a conversation with someone about their educational system, and they said, and that just the mindset of having this different thought of what education is to them versus us. They said the most important thing in our education is that we teach children how to treat each other and how to have respect for one another. Someone is educated not by the degrees they have. Someone is considered educated by how they treat one another. And I saw at a couple of different restaurants we went to, there were these, what we would call panhandlers here, selling like these lotto tickets. And I expected like the owners of the restaurant to shoo them away or something. No, at some point at both restaurants, one was kind of a family restaurant with a bar, and there was some people doing like karaoke or having a good time. They actually asked the person who was trying to sell their lottery tickets to sit down and join them for a meal. This was in two completely different cities, two completely different restaurants. And that speaks to me as far as our culture, to remind us about our culture, de donde come uno, comen dos, to extend our tables, so we are a culture of community. This gets me emotional. Community and acceptance and belonging. And so just to remember that's what our parents have taught us and Costa Rica reminded me of. Thank you.